Max Payne 3 is a very suspenseful, intriguing third-person action game. It is one of my favorite kind of third-person action shooters of all time. Originally, I played Max Payne 3 like on the Xbox 360, right? I played it on that, and then eventually I played it on the PS3, right? Max Payne 3 is very enjoyable, for me, mainly because of the bullet time. So the bullet time ability is literally a way to slow down time as you dodge bullets. You literally dodge bullets, and it does add a precision to your aiming, so you can take out multiple enemies with this bullet time ability. With a lot of, like with any kind of time slowing ability, like in any game or any like, kind of temporal base ability, right? You gotta use it wisely, right? As it will run out, right? There is a time, the bullet time meter that kind of grows every time you kill an enemy, right? So this kind of a bullet time meter will actually run out pretty quickly. Now a bullet time, also involves a bullet dodge, so you can, lunge as you lunge across the screen, right? So you kind of your character lunges, and obviously with the bullet time, the bullet dodge ability, it makes it less likely for your character to get hit by bullets, right? As you kind of smooth, you move, across the screen, you literally dodge bullets, right? So you're less likely to be hit, making the game easier and more fluent. Make no mistake, in this game, you will die quickly. You will die very quickly, especially without painkillers, right? I'm gonna talk about painkillers after, right? But the bullet dodge ability makes it so smooth and makes the action sequences so epic. I kind of think a Hollywood sequence where there's an epic shootout, right? Where the main protagonist, right? He has to, he's getting shot at by so many enemies. This is at that game. There's other games like this too where it's like Stranglehold that did it, right? Stranglehold. There's a Dead to Rights that did it as well. But Max Payne 3 really, nails the bullet time ability, the bullet dodge ability. And with the game, you can access so many weapons in the game, right? From, pistols, submachine guns, assault rifles, carbines, snipers, shotguns. And as the game goes further and further and further, you will get access at more, at better carbines, assault rifles, etc. I'm gonna talk about another thing in the game is the painkiller. So the painkillers are literally a way for you to replenish health, right? So a painkiller, right? I think you get you really have to use them wisely. Now, Max Payne 3, the painkillers are literally a way for you to kind of get like a second life, right? So, or a kind of for you to avoid dying. So, let's say if you have one painkiller left and if you're near death, right? The painkiller will literally save you, but you have to take out the enemy that shot you last. So you have to shoot the enemy, and there's this cool kind of slow motion ability, like right of the bullet. You ever played a Sniper Elite where it shows the bullet about hit the target, right, and it's slow motion. There's like a slow motion effect to it. So the painkillers are the very important, and it kind of implements into the main character's kind of mental health and background, and but the painkillers is it is a very unique way to kind of replenish your health, and you will find painkillers like in the world, or whether it be more so, especially if you go in the game in a washroom area or some sort of office area, right? You will find painkillers. The painkillers again, you will run out very quickly. Now, Max Payne 3, as I said before, in terms of the difficulty of the game, right, you will die fairly quickly if you're not careful, right? Especially if you're, facing some crazy sequences like, where there's an enemy with a sniper, right? And this is basically a sniper, right, where one hit literally, replenishes your health all the way down, right? So you'll have no health. Now, with obviously the painkillers you can help with that, right? But the snipers are just so far away. But as you get further into the game, there's gonna be more enemies. There's gonna be more enemy spawnings. There's gonna be more kind of waves of enemies at once, and obviously as you play more and more of it, you get better, right? And knowing how the cover system, the bullet time, I want to use the bullet time, it gets easier. But there will be a lot of enemies, and you will die, in various sequences. The best thing to do is just utilize the cover system, common sense, like any shooting game, right? Utilize the cover system, wait for enemies at to pop out, shoot the enemies. There is blind fire. There is what do you call it again? Like where you're in cover, and then I believe it's called a blind fire, right? You're in cover, but you're literally shooting at the gun, right? But you're not getting up, right? So a blind fire is very useful as well. In some sequences, especially if you have an assault rifle. Now speak no, with the weapon wheel, right? So the weapon wheel is a little weird because you can hold kind of two secondary weapons and like one primary weapon, right? So two kind of pistols or some machine guns and one assault rifle or one shotgun sniper, right? But basically once you go dual wield, you can no longer hold on to that primary weapon, right? So the dual wield, you only have the two secondary weapons. Now, a dual wheel is actually cooler, right? It is actually a lot cooler in that aiming. You can actually take out the enemies a lot quicker, like with dual wield. For example, if you have dual weapons of Uzis, right? Like a dual weapon Uzi, like in the game, it gets a lot quicker to take out enemies, right? But you will run out of bullets quicker, even quicker, and you gotta reserve bullets. You're constantly picking up bullets, but again, you will run out of bullets fairly quickly. There's even stuff like a Desert Eagle. There's like this overpowered revolver in the game, right? You can use dual wield, which gets very cool. Max Payne 3 is gonna have there are some things that, like in the game that I don't really like as much. For example, they're very rare, but they're like these QTE segments, right? So the QTE segments where you gotta match them exactly, literally at the time frame, There's one where it's chapter 9 and there's that a machete QTE. If you play the game, you'll know, and it is very annoying. I thought it was a bug where if you press the button and it's not processing, so you keep failing at the QTE. And QTE, like in games like this, are just weird. It's just weird. Now, there's also like this weird thing like in the game that I don't like, where sometimes like you'll bullet dodge, right, and then after the bullet dodge, you'll land, and there's this a delay, right, so the character like is on the ground a little bit too long, and you want to get up and move, but the character is a little stuck, so there's a little button a delay there, right, in the post bullet dodge animation, which is weird. There are other stuff in it, like that weird kind of flash, right, so that weird flashing like of the cutscene, where there's like these flashes like of multiple colors. It is a unique cinematic, right? But for me, I don't really like it very much, right? No, I guess it is kind of more of a representative like of the main character's mental health and what he's going through as he's taking out multiple enemies and as he goes through the story. It does have like a somewhat a depressing tone to the game, right? But overall, right, even though the cutscenes are very are unique, I didn't like that kind of a multicolored flashes, right, like in the cutscene. There are other stuff in the game like New York Minute. New York Minute is basically an arcade mode where you literally start out with a minute. You can replay every mission over again, like you replay every sequence over again, and you replay it like on a minute. And every time you kill an enemy, you actually gain time, so it'll add plus 5 seconds or plus 10 seconds, depending on if it's like a headshot or like a body shot. I really enjoy a New York Minute, right? It forces you to kind of get through the sequences quicker and more efficiently. Now, with New York Minute, I think that if you die in New York Minute, there's no checkpoint. So in every mission, there's no checkpoint. You gotta perfect a New York Minute. There's another arcade mode too as well, which is more so like for points. But the New York Minute, right, is there's literally no checkpoint, so you gotta do it perfect. You gotta be a perfectionist in every level. It gets harder like in future levels where there's more heavy armored enemies. There's more there's more waves of enemies, so you will die a lot. You're more likely to die. There's multiplayer as well, which I never played the multiplayer. I'm not sure if the servers still work, but the multiplayer, I did watch it online. It does look very cool, and with any shooting game, multiplayer is going to be very competitive, and there's going to be pros, rookies, going to be different, varying levels like of players are playing it. But like overall, Max Payne 3, another thing too, like is the presentation of the game. It is a solid presentation. I enjoyed the outside of those weird flashes like in the cutscenes, the art style, the visual style of the game is very cool, right? And it does match at the tone of the game very well, right? That kind of somewhat, a depressing tone of the game. But yeah, visual as well, as the audio, the sound effects, so the sound designs like in the weapons, the gunshots sound so realistic and very suspenseful, very intense, right? But like overall though, Max Payne 3 is a very solid game. I highly recommend it if you're on PS3, 360, or I'm not sure if it's, oh yeah, a PC as well. So